So I just wanted to give my post-fight thoughts on the Triple G versus Brook fight. Pretty exciting fight while it lasted. It was a fifth round stoppage. Kell Brook's corner threw in the towel. Some people are angry at the stoppage. I'm not really, I just feel like it was inevitable at that point. Kell Brook's eye was busted. I think they said he broke or fractured his orbital bone. So, no problems with the stoppage here, but, man, Kell Brook made a good account of himself, man. He really did. He was hitting Golovkin a lot. Golovkin got hit a lot in this fight. I won't say that he was completely exposed, but the holes that a lot of us always thought were there, Kell Brook confirmed that they are there. This guy is not Superman. He's a human being. But anyways, yeah, I think it was all the rounds were competitive up until the fifth round. But the first round, Golovkin edged out because of a big left hook that he landed. Second round was a clear-cut Kell Brook round. Kell Brook came out with a nice right-hand uppercut right through Golovkin's guard. I mean, there's holes all in Golovkin's guard, man. But anyways, third round, Golovkin turned it up a little bit, started putting on more pressure, but Kell Brook still boxed pretty well. Wasn't running. He was basically, taking small steps back, half steps to the side, popping Golovkin with jabs. And, competitive round, like I said. Fourth round, more of the same. I think Kell Brook actually bothered Golovkin a lot with a right hand that he landed, and then he followed up with some combinations. Fifth round was when the stoppage came. I think Kell Brook was already mentally checked out in the fifth round. He's basically just walking backwards, slow, taking punches. He was taking a lot of the steam off the punches. You could tell that Golovkin, he didn't like having to hit someone with even a little bit of head movement, which is one of the reasons why I thought that Kell Brook would actually survive a lot longer than most of these middleweights did. But the fractured orbital bone was just too much. His corner didn't want him in there any longer with a puncher as big as Golovkin. If you're seeing three of the guy, which Kell Brook claimed that he was seeing triple vision, basically, you don't want your fighter in there, a fighter in his prime that still has some sort of a future ahead of him. You really don't want him in there with a puncher as big as Golovkin if you can't see the punches coming. But anyway, my assessment, first of all, I told you guys that Kell Brook was going to be the best Kell Brook that we've ever seen, as far as his condition. Absolutely true. I don't even think that's deniable at this point. Man, he took these punches a lot better than most middleweights do. Most guys that are even bigger than Golovkin. A lot of people are going to say that it was the size. I still don't think it was the size, man. I really don't. As you can see, Kell Brook was able to bother Golovkin with some of his punches, and at the same time, he ate a lot of big punches from Golovkin, and he was still there. A lot of people made it out to, like it was just going to be some fucking one-and-done shit where Golovkin touches Kell Brook and he just lays down. That wasn't the case. The problem was Gennady Golovkin's power. That's definitely his unfair advantage. His power, his power is not even normal for a middleweight. And when he hits middleweights that are bigger than him, the same thing happens, if not worse. Kell Brook made a better account of himself than, go down the list, pretty much all of them. But Kell Brook, he can still do some things out there. He's not going back down to welterweight. I'll tell you guys that right now. There's no way he's going to go back down and start draining himself again. He might get knocked out by Errol Spence if that shit happens, or even Thurman, I don't know. But, Yeah, I think Kell Brook could probably move back down to 154. I don't see him doing that well at that division just because all the guys are so tall, so rangy, and just as athletic as him. You know, he's not gonna enjoy the advantage that he had over Golovkin today if he moves back down to 154 and fights the best. Um, but yeah, besides that, man, shout out to Kell Brook. He did a good job today, even though he got stopped in the 5th round. But I still think he did a pretty damn good job. Golovkin, on the other hand, looked extremely vulnerable, in my opinion. I think a lot of people, me included, myself included, kind of overestimated Golovkin's skill set. I'm not gonna see, he's not bad. He's still a very good fighter, but at the highest level, his only advantages are always gonna be his power and his chin. And the problem is, when he moves up and he's fighting guys who are a lot bigger than him, this shit's not gonna fly, man. His defense has too many holes in it. It looked like he was getting gassed out a little bit. And one thing I noticed is that Golovkin, he can be outboxed. He's definitely not even close to the best boxer out there. And he's not a great counterpuncher either, man. A lot of things, or one of the things that I thought would be good for Kell Brook and he'd be successful is if he just used his speed to throw a lot of flurries at Golovkin, and he was kind of doing that during the fight, and Golovkin he was basically taking turns. He wasn't counterpunching. He was basically letting Kell Brook finish and then going off to do his thing, which of course, someone who punches as hard as him, he's going to do the most damage. So in this fight, that was okay. But if he fights someone bigger, I mean, like even a Eubank or a Jacobs at this point, I'm not 100% sure that Golovkin beats these guys. Andre Ward, you guys can forget about that shit, man. Swerving Golovkin away from Ward, that is the smartest thing his team ever done. That's the smartest decision that his team ever made. Because if he fought Ward instead of Lemieux, we wouldn't be talking about Golovkin right now. I can guarantee you guys that. He looked a little cavemanish, and, this is where like I said, over time, when he just kept knocking these people out one after another, I think we started looking at him and saying, because he did it in such dominant fashion that I think a lot of people were looking at him and saying, man, it's not just the power, it's this. He barely gets hit, it's this. You see those stats, that CompuBox stat where he's like second place behind Andre Ward. If he fights some more guys that have a pulse and who are athletic, that shit is going to go way down, let me tell you, because Gennady Golovkin's defense is like fucking Swiss cheese, basically. I'm not going to say he's a bad fighter. I don't want to take too much credit away from him, but his power and his chin and his accuracy are definitely his bread and butter. And yeah, man, now I'm excited to see him take some other fights. Jacobs, Eubank, Lara. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm on to the next one.